All right. Thank you for joining us today. Today's speakers will be Randy Berry, Senior Vice President, Operations and Services, myself, Chris Lamming, Vice President of Inspection Services, and Colm, Moran, Manager of Inspection Services and Key Accounts out of Europe. So let's get started. So IronPlanet's Inspection Services, that's what we're here to talk about today, and obviously it's something that we are very proud of here at IronPlanet. It's what drives our marketplaces, right? I mean, the confidence that we instill through the inspections done by our inspectors and our processes and the technology that we have is what stands out at IronPlanet. So, you know, we create and maintain a trusted marketplace for our buyers and sellers. And again, that's all about building that confidence, you know, that unbiased report that both brings buyers and sellers together in a trusted marketplace. We adapt to an ever-changing equipment market, you know, and we are, again, as you see through the years of all the different inspections we've done and all the changes, we've gotten into many different verticals in the industry and inspected a wide range of equipment, which we'll get into later, but you know that we feel confident in the expertise of our people who are doing those inspections. And again, we drive technology integration across the industry. We'll get into that later too, but it's a big factor of what has allowed us to enhance our reports and give the detail that you have come to expect. And you know, we're all about establishing an environment of continuous improvement and learning, and that goes across all of our lines. Again, you'll hear a recurring theme of the people, process, and technology. We're continuing to strive to improve all of those. So with that, let me jump into a little history of where we were, and then we'll get to where we are today. But you can see here, this is a photo from the very first item sold on IronPlanet in 2000. Right? It's not the greatest quality there, as you can see. This is actually a corner shot, which those who are familiar with the IronPlanet marketplace know that that's not what our corner shots look like today. But in 2000, that was a corner shot of ours, and it was one of only 16 photographs for that inspection report. So over time, right, from 2000 to 2016, our inspections have increased 50-fold in volume, all the way up to 100,000 plus last year. And the product that we have delivered has obviously enhanced over that time too. So with that, let me jump into you know, what a successful and scalable inspection capability requires, and that's, you know, people, process, and technology. And the most important one of those is our people. You know, our inspectors, again, they're a huge part. You know, they're the cog that really makes the wheel turn. You know, keeps things going. And they have, you know, an average of 20 years of experience in the industry. They go through a lot of training. That's the initial training of the assessment and coming on board as a contractor or as a full-time IronPlanet inspector. Then there's online training and orientation, field training, and then there's a monitoring stage in the field to where you finally have the final approval and you become a member of the IronPlanet inspection team. And it doesn't stop there, right? So we have continuous education. And again, as you can see with the average years of experience, our regional field managers, you know, are continuously training all the inspectors in their region. And one tool that we use is this IronPlanet University, which you see screenshots of here. It provides online access to everybody in our inspection network, so they can take continued education. You know, they can go into specific courses that maybe they need, you know, some ongoing education on specific equipment types, be it cranes or be it certain components of equipment. We can parse out the training that is needed for each individual and supply that to them. So our global inspector network, again, all about our people. There's 350 plus inspectors in the Americas region, 40 plus inspectors in the European region, and over 4 inspectors in the Asia Pacific region. And again, you combine the cumulative efforts of that group of inspectors for over 100,000 inspections carried out in 2016. And since the beginning of IronPlanet, inspections have been performed in over 100 countries across the world. As you can see there, from India to Canada, from France to Indonesia. And of this inspector network, we have focused expertise. So we are very proud of our inspectors and of their knowledge. And we have inspectors who have very specific knowledge to certain industries. Again, here in this slide, you can see that the various types of equipment and the various marketplaces that we have focused expertise in. So Cruise Energy, GovPlanet, TruckPlanet, and specifically to highlight TruckPlanet, IronPlanet acquired Asset Appraisal Services in February of 2013. Before that, we were inspecting and selling mini trucks. A large amount of trucks were sold through our marketplaces, but we recognized we weren't necessarily the leader when it came to truck inspections. We weren't shy about that, and so with the acquisition of Asset Appraisal Services, we now have a focused expertise in trucks, and they're the recognized leader in commercial truck inspections in North America, and again has just further expanded our level of expertise and our knowledge base in the inspection world. So next, let me move into an overview of our process. This is, our inspections from consignment to sale. So when a seller consigns a piece of equipment or a group of items, right, for auction, that really kicks the process off, to which we will generate an inspection request. And with that inspection request, you can see, we will send out, whether that's in the United States, whether that's in Europe, whether that's in Australia, Indonesia, wherever it is, we will mobilize one inspector or a team of inspectors, depending on the size of the inspection request. And we will go out and perform that inspection. And again, here in a little bit, you'll see the inner workings of how that happens and how it's fed back to our website for final review. And then you see there's so many different processes that go on between point of consignment and point of sale. We're going to focus on the inspection side of it, but in that timeline, from time of inspection request to having it available on preview, is 10 business days. Now again, that may be shorter in some scenarios or longer, depending on the inspection requirement and certain details that may impact that request. And with that, let me pass this over to Colm to go into a deeper dive of the inspection process.
So guys, thanks Chris. So here at IronPlanet, we're using somewhere in the region of 267 different types of unique checklists for our inspectors to complete their assignments. This number, of course, has grown in line with the demand that's been created through the growth in the business that Chris touched on earlier. I think basically at inception there was a minimal number of checklists, and many of those checklists were being used to do multiple types of equipment. Our checklists, of course, have developed, and they now more or less encompass any conceivable type of equipment that's out there in the market today. For example, we even have a checklist at the moment that we can use to inspect a dredge barge used up in the Yukon for prospecting gold, for example. I mentioned earlier just about the checklists that we were using years ago and the vagueness that they created. And when you compare where we have evolved to today, it's easy to see the improvements that have been made in recent times, such as the inclusion of equipment features, for example, which add value to the equipment, of course, by identifying the additional options. But the more focused information that you see on the reports today, of course, is compiled by us using approximately 100 different line items that's found on each checklist, and again presented back to you guys on the website. And the value that these line items bring to us is probably about twofold. The first one, I guess, they're showing the level of detail in which our inspectors are going to during the inspection. Essentially, that means that he's touching the equipment in at least 100 different times for every full inspection report that he completes. Each of these line items are supported by an appropriate photograph wherever necessary. The second value add that the volume of touch points bring to our reports is the improved simplicity that it offers to the potential buyers to pinpoint the relevant information during the review of the report to help you make that buying decision. Whilst, of course, it's great that we have such an offering today, having come from where we started, we do not rest on our laurels either. So each and every single checklist that we use is under a constant state of review by our team back in the Fort Worth office over in Texas. These improvements are made on the back of the new additions that you see in machine specifications from each and every OEM, or, for example, changes in the engine technology that we're seeing every day to meet the new environmental tiers and so forth. We're also gathering this different type of information to improve the reports from our large inspection team across the world, and that also helps us to adapt the checklists to include some maybe region-specific information wherever possible. Take, for example, at the moment we're seeing quite a lot of the newer Tier 4 type engines coming through the marketplace. So we've adapted the report to include the new feature on these engines, which again in the US is called DEF. Over here in Europe we call it AdBlue. So again, it makes it a little bit simpler for the buyers to review the reports online and understand what they're looking at. Making these changes, of course, keep us abreast of the advances that's in the industry, and the beauty of the technology prowess that Chris will get into in a little bit more detail shortly is that once that update is actually done in Fort Worth, it's instantaneously available to the inspection team, regardless of where they're operating across the world. So to move on briefly then into the anatomy of the actual field inspection, which happens with the inspectors on site. So the IronPlanet inspector is tasked with some pretty important roles within the company. Firstly, I guess he's going to be the eyes and the ears, of course, of the buyer, whilst on the other side, he's there to accentuate the positives that you're seeing, which supports the preparation that is done by the seller in advance of the inspection, which again brings us back into the unbiased nature of our reports. The inspector's main role, obviously, is then to inspect the equipment, and once assigned to a package of equipment, he's expected to complete it in a timely manner, again, to help us maintain that 10-day turn that Chris mentioned earlier. Of course, the first step of any assignment is to make contact with the assigned point of contact and discuss the equipment readiness. We class this as a vital area in the lead up to the inspection, and then he'll arrange the date and time to get on site. Once he makes it to the site and he gets himself introduced with the points of contact, they then locate the equipment around the yard using the accurate serial numbers that's provided, or in some cases the fleet number if that's necessary. We give each and every item a unique tracking number label. This number is used internally, I guess, throughout the system to track the machines as we take them from each different step in the in the process. And also it adds some value in the post-sale element of our business, in that it's easily identifying the machine for collection. The inspector will then take a walk around, do a check for fluid levels, and then he'll start his inspection. So as I mentioned, the inspector he's mainly guided by the checklist that we discussed on the slide beforehand, and each and every line item that's within that particular checklist. You know, these touch points, as we call them sometimes, are broken out into approximately 8 individual sections, which encompass each and every subsystem or component, such as, you know, control station, general appearance, engine, chassis, etc. And although we do include a vast number of areas for the inspector to check, we also leverage on the experience that Chris touched on, that these guys have acquired throughout their years in the industry. And they're expected also to identify and evaluate some systems, of course, that are critical to the machine performance, but may not just be mentioned on the checklist. And we would also expect the inspector to take a similar approach to areas which will detract from the machine appearance or value, you know, such as inside of a control station, for example. To complement that depth of information, the inspector is compelled to observe and capture some pictures and videos of certain components around each part of the machine. Take as an example, he would be expected to capture a video of his engine blow-by, pictures of emissions labels, air compressors, leaks around the engine and fuel systems, and of course the turbo. And again, once the equipment has then reached an operating temperature, some initial procedures are complete, the inspector he'll then work to maybe the drivetrain components. And critically important is he will identify the type of transmission that's in the machine, and the gear ranges, of course, if applicable. You know, and information like this is normally supported with the use of a photograph. As we all know, a photograph will tell 1,000 words. You know, take as an example, Caterpillar dozer. You know, we'll indicate on such a machine, is it a hydrostatic transmission or is it a power shift transmission with a differential steering? And then, dependent on the type of transmission, we'll report on the condition of the components within it. So, take as an example your torque converters or steering clutches for wherever is necessary and appropriate. The inspector then moves through different sections and into the likes of the chassis, for example, and the undercarriage with you know, track type equipment. He'll report on the condition of the booms and sticks. He'll provide some critical information again, such as you know, stick length as an example, which again allows the buyer to make a good decision and understand if the equipment will suit the application in which he's looking to fill. He'll also highlight some areas of pivot point wear, areas of cracks or weld repair, all again which detract from the value of a machine. Of course, on the track type equipment, the undercarriage, as we all know, is a very, very important piece of the machine. And an inspector, of course, knows this, and to provide the information, he takes multiple photographs of the relevant components, you know, such as track pads, links, your bushings and sprockets, etc. And again, similar to a transmission component, here we'll identify some value-added components, such as, you know, Caterpillar System 1, for example, or if the undercarriage has roller bushings, which you sometimes find on some case equipment, you know. And again, once all of these different areas have been addressed through from start to finish on our checklist, the inspector then proceeds to take some fluid samples, you see in the pictures on the slide. Put that aside then, after his engine, hydraulic and transmission fluid samples are done, he'll thoroughly review the information he has inputted into his report. And by using again, touching on technology, the iPad application that we've developed, it allows him to submit the report instantaneously and allow our quality controllers back in the Fort Worth office or Atlanta or here in Dublin for Europe, and these guys take over with the controlling process to make sure the information is accurate going up on the website. And of course, I'll hand it back to Chris here on this point, and he can take you through the next few steps of the process.
All right, thank you, Colm. Yeah, so I'm gonna dive into the technology, but before I do, I think you've heard about our people. Again, I just want to reiterate. I mean, how proud we are of that segment of inspection services, right? I mean, that really is what drives the product that we put out every day. And just, you know, it's kind of funny looking at those pictures that Colm just walked through. That's not an actor or anything. That's one of our regional field managers. I was actually just with him in Orlando a few weeks ago, and as we get into technology, you'll see, I mean, these inspectors who have this equipment knowledge, you know, they're able to conquer, you know, even more by the technology that we have brought in, and they're out there who you know, testing it and developing it so that it really is, you know, technology brings the people and the process together, and that's really what our technology is driven towards, internally, and then also to connect the world to our inspection report. So you know, this is a pretty exciting topic for us, and one other piece of this inspection process, as you see in the first bullet there, is our quality control team. So, you know, what we refer to as our controllers. You know, you can think of it as, you know, reading or getting a copy of a book that sold 1 million copies, and you're jumping into, you know, the first chapter, and you're excited, and only to read the first sentence, and it makes no sense because somebody misprinted the word, right? And you're just kind of left, you know, scratching your head going, well, you know, what is that? Well, that's what, you know, our controller team is tasked with, you know, preparing that inspection for final presentation, and they have, you know, a wealth of equipment knowledge too. This isn't just, you know, someone looking, you know, and doing a spell check, you know, but they're taking what the inspector has submitted and making sure that it is presented in a manner that is clear to the world. Again, so now with that, I was actually, you know, it's funny to kind of look back to the past, right? Where were we? And then what has changed with our technology? So let me kind of give you a brief overview of that. I mean, we were not always, as you saw in the picture from 2000, we weren't at the point we are today back then, right? So there was a point where the inspector in the field would take pictures via a disposable camera, and that, along with a paper checklist, would be mailed, or sometimes the checklist may be faxed, but mailed to the office, where they would go and get the photos developed, and download those off the store's website, and then put them into the report. You know, we got really high tech when we went to floppy disks, and then moved on to burning photos onto CDs, and then finally, you know, we got to the point where we are today. But there's a lot that goes on with preparing that report, right? And previously, there was a whole lot of manual input. So an inspector performs the inspection, goes through all that detail that Colm just mentioned, submits that to the office, and then someone has to take and look through, you know, 25 pages of paper and enter all of that data, and then take the photos and assign them to the different categories that Colm mentioned, and go into the line items. Obviously, there's a lot of potential for human error, right? I mean, even if you have the best processes and the best technology, I mean, there's opportunity for human error. And so what kind of the progression of our technology has done is limited some of that, limited the redundancies and a lot of the manual input, and allowed it to flow straight from the inspector to a format that is almost ready for final presentation, right? And allowed our teams to focus on the important part of their role, right? Of actually doing the review and spending time really quality controlling versus doing some data entry. So with that said, that progression went to, you know, we rolled out a motion tablet, which had a web-based app, and it was rather expensive for a tablet, and it wasn't our whole inspector network, but several of our staff inspectors had those, and that cut down some of the time, but there was still a lot of manual photo assigning that had to be done. And then about 4 years ago, three and a half years ago, we developed our iInspector app, which is on iOS. Both Randy, who's on this call, and Connor Humphrey we're very keen on getting that developed so that, again, we could further expand the detail that we would wanted to provide, right? You can imagine trying to capture all that and manually load it. You reach a point where you can't expand on all of that data, and you can't expand on the precise photos that we want to take for each category because of all of the manual repetitive steps. And we were missing out on that. So this iInspector app takes the report from the field, and it sends it to where when it hits our website, so when an inspector's done inspecting a unit, it looks like these pictures you see here, right? So all of the content, and these don't show our star ratings, but star ratings also come through. All the content's there, where you see the little camera icon on the picture that's highlighted or has a red box around it. Those are line item photos that the inspector actually took on that section inside of the app, and so when he submits it, it's already attached there. And then any additional photos for the general appearance section or the safety section or the chassis section, they're dropped down where a buyer can click on the additional photos and see them for that section, or they can look at the photos at large. So again, technology has really improved our processes, and it's given us the ability to give more detail to the buyer, right, and provide more detail of the seller's equipment. So that way we can further expand our unbiased inspection and really give a high level of quality. With that said, also let me, before I move on, video functionality. So we've rolled out video to our reports. It's another way that, we know what our guys go through every day, but if you're just seeing a comment as a seller or as a buyer, you may be going, well, okay, is that really how it is? I want to hear it. I want to see it, right? And that's what we are about, and we're using technology to do that, right? To give the marketplace more of a real look at that equipment, right? That they're actually there in it, walking around it without actually being there, right? And with that said, think of where we can go next. That's where we're always thinking ahead. I love I have young kids, and as they kind of tell me about new technology that and I'm not old. I don't consider myself old, but yet they're already talking about things that I'm going, well, what exactly is that? Well, that's kind of where we are forward thinking, going, what, there will be this picture may make some people chuckle here on the far right, but virtual reality, that's a reality that in several years that may be widespread in this industry, right? And we're prepared to continue to improve our technology and to really use it to extend the level of detail and the confidence in our inspection reports. So again, here's just a walk through really our day to day, and to give you the breadth of what's going on. We've got 388 iPads that are deployed across the country, across the world. We have inspectors in over 24 countries. And then you can see here on the right, 12,000 photos uploaded daily. A little stat there, placed side by side, they would reach the top of the world's tallest skyscraper and back down again, which is over 4 million images of machines uploaded by our inspectors in 1 year. That's crazy, and technology has helped us accomplish that. And again, this is daily going on. And on top of the daily business, right, that we may be inspecting a unit at a OEM or off the side of a road at a job site or in somebody's backyard or at a farm. You name it, our inspectors are there daily performing inspections. And with that, there's some very interesting adventures that we have been on that really show the limitlessness of our inspection services team. So I'm going to pass it back over to Colm to walk through a few of those.
Absolutely, Chris. So, of course, as you guys can see in the in the slide up at the moment, we've been to some pretty wild and wonderful places, to include gold mines in the Arctic Circle of Sweden, jungles in Central Africa where, the guys have had gorillas looking to use the same hotel rooms as them at times, But a few that stood out to us, I guess, looking in recently enough in West Africa, we had a couple of guys down there for a few weeks. As you can see in the pictures on the top right, I think they spent a few days trekking through the jungle for a few different kilometers, trying to hunt down some D6s. If you can spot in the far top corner of that picture, you'll see one in the distance, and also we had, I think back in 2010, especially you guys over here this side of the world will remember the volcano in Iceland, which pretty much shut down European airspace for a few weeks. But again, they didn't stop us from getting the inspector from Iceland where he was the day it actually erupted. But he undertook his own epic journey of trains, planes, and automobiles to get home, back through, flying back through the north of Norway, coach then down to Copenhagen and a train around to France to get in the tunnel back to the UK, where he was back in a few days to continue with inspections for the next customer. And also down, we had a big operation in down in Indonesia, in Borneo, where we flew an inspector in, and again, a nice little trip. Internal charter flights up into the middle of the jungle and boat rides up the river for 2 or 3 hours and running out of fuel in the middle of it, and living amongst the locals for about 3 weeks in a mine in the middle of the jungle, and not only that, but he had to get back again, so it's pretty exciting things that the guys go through on a regular basis, but I suppose the one constant that we see, regardless of where the machine is, be it in North America, here in Europe, or in any of these wonderful places that we've been to, is our IronClad Assurance, the key differentiator in what we have. And I think I'll pass back over to Randy here for a moment, and he'll take you through the main points of what our IronClad Assurance is and what it offers to you as a buyer or even as a seller. So Randy, I'll take it over to you.
Thank you, Colm. I appreciate that. And I'm going to do just a quick kind of review of what Chris and Colm have shared so far, and then I'll kind of finish up with IronClad Assurance, and then we'll jump into a Q&A. We see that we already have several questions queued up from our attendees. You should be able to submit questions through the chat feature in the webinar on your screen there. So again, I'm Randy Berry. I'm Senior VP of Operations and Services. I've been with IronPlanet for almost 10 years. Inspection services has been part of my responsibility ever since I've been here. And as Chris highlighted, I've seen just amazing growth and development and improvements in our capability to inspect our customers' equipment since I've been here. We're probably doing 15 to 20 times the inspections that were required when I started versus what we're doing now. You saw Chris, he highlighted early on the very first item that we sold back in our very first IronPlanet auction, which was in April of 2000. We sold that 1996 Cat 330B excavator for $110,000. It was one of 23 items that we actually sold in that first event. And today you will see anywhere from 800 to 2,000 items selling across the IronPlanet marketplaces every week, sometimes more than that. But easily you'll see that volume, and the improvements, and in terms of making sure that our inspectors are of the highest quality, they're provided the best possible training. We're leveraging and always improving our processes, and we're leveraging technology to the maximum extent possible. All of these improvements, they're not nice to haves, they're absolutely must-haves for us. We would not have been able to scale this business and scale our inspection capability without these types of forward-thinking improvements. And one thing that many of you probably don't know, the unique and forward-thinking aspect of the process, technology, and systems and so forth supporting our inspection services capability and our online marketplace capability were recognized by the U.S. Patent Office, actually awarding IronPlanet a patent on our methods and systems back in 2008, supporting this this overall capability. So, you know, as Chris mentioned at the top, we're very, very proud of our inspection services capability. We think that it's truly the centerpiece of the value proposition that IronPlanet offers our customers, both on the buyer and the seller side. And kind of getting back to the primary element of that, it's providing these detailed inspections, and it's offering those inspections with IronClad Assurance, which is our commitment that the inspections are accurate and our guarantee that they're accurate. And if they are not accurate, we will stand behind those, and we will work with the buyer to resolve any issues that may exist. So when you think about this, you know, what are the real benefits for buyers for this capability and this offering? Well, it's the ability to bid confidently. You don't have to go spend money and travel and consume your time to visit an item. We're going to be the eyes and ears for you. You're going to be able to bid confidently by looking at that item online, looking at the detailed inspection report, looking at all the photos, listening and watching the videos of the engine, the blow-by and other features of the machine, reviewing the fluid samples, and you're going to be able to bid confidently, knowing that what you are looking at and what you see is what you're going to get when you win that item, right? And the ability for us to drive an online marketplace allows us to provide you, the buyer, access to a much broader selection of equipment on an ongoing basis, a continuous basis, okay? And also, again, you can avoid, as I mentioned earlier, you can avoid the time-consuming and costly travel that you may incur in other buying options. Okay, for sellers, how do sellers benefit from this? Well, obviously sellers will benefit from the strong price performance that is driven by that global buyer base bidding confidently, bidding aggressively, based on the fact that they're comfortable, they know what they're buying, right? And the seller is also benefiting from the low-cost channel, whereby most sellers are going to choose, when they sell through IronPlanet, they're going to choose to sell those items from their own location, which means they can avoid the time-consuming and costly, you know, requirement to move and transport equipment to some physical auction site, right? The other thing is quickest time to cash. All right, we've got auctions and marketplace events every week. You don't have to wait for another provider that may have a, you know, some event scheduled, you know, on a quarterly or a half year or yearly basis or whatever. If you're ready to sell, we're ready to sell it on your behalf. Okay. And all of these capabilities that Chris and Colm have outlined are the reasons that we can do this. You know, it really, you know, in a nutshell, comprises the value proposition that IronPlanet offers our customers. So with that little sales pitch at the end here, I want to open it up to questions and answers. And we already have some questions queued up, so let me kind of reel through those, and then we'll open it up for others as well. So the first question that I see is it possible to get a local contact to speak to about inspection and pricing my machines? Where can I find it? Well, go to the IronPlanet website. In the upper left-hand corner, there's a How to Sell link. Click on that. It'll take you to a page, and if you look down the left-hand side, first of all, you'll see a phone number, which takes you into one of our central offices, and you can go that route, or you can also click on the little panel there to determine who your local IronPlanet sales representative is, if you don't already know that person, and you can identify that person, see their local contact info, and reach out to them. So we appreciate that question, and hopefully that clarifies for you how you can get with one of our local people. So, second question, you spoke about oil samples. Can you explain that a bit more? Well, I think this may have been asked earlier, and I think Colm touched on the oil samples fairly in good detail. But basically, you know, depending on the type of the equipment that we're inspecting, we're going to pull fluid samples. You know, either the engine oil, hydraulic fluid, transmission fluid. Again, you're going to see it varies by equipment type as to whether you get all three or one or two or so forth. And you're going to see the analyses reflected of those oil samples, and basically it's going to show you, you know, wear metals in parts per million, whether or not there's any water or fuel in the fluid and so forth. And that, again, we're all about disclosure. And that's something that we find, we get regular feedback from our customers that that's an important part of the inspection. Question number 3, do your inspectors make suggestions on how to present your equipment in the best way to sell on our marketplace? Absolutely. As Chris highlighted, we have a quality control function, and we have a quality control manager. His responsibility is constantly improving the content and the presentation of our inspections online, right? And that includes, photo quality and angles, and coaching our inspectors on, depending on the weather and the cloudiness versus sunny conditions versus things in the background and so forth, coaching these guys on how to move machines around when that's practical. In some cases, we have restrictions; we can't move equipment around significantly, but when we can, we try to always position the machines so that we can get the best possible quality photograph. And our inspectors, we have, certainly our senior inspectors out there have many, many years of experience, and they're very creative, and they understand and appreciate and take ownership of the quality of their photographs and their inspection reports overall. And they're a great source of feedback and ideas for us to continue to improve our inspection reports. Let me see here. The next, do you offer a complete pricing service for assets? Well, again, if you are interested in selling your equipment through IronPlanet, our local rep will work with you to estimate what the market value of that equipment may be. If you have a requirement for what's kind of described as a third-party appraisal, where maybe you're trying to get financing, or you have some kind of Department of Transportation bond requirement, or you're selling assets or buying assets and you want a more formal appraisal, we also have that paid appraisal service, which you can also work with your local sales rep to get access to. The next question, how do you handle inspections in areas with bad reception? Are inspections done offline and then uploaded directly to the web? Yes, they are. In fact, our iPads generally work better. The battery lasts longer when they're not online all the time. So typically our inspectors will be offline, and they will conduct their inspections, and then at some point when it's practical or convenient, they will access Wi-Fi or their cell phone network, and they'll upload the reports and the photographs at that time. So yes, that's a common practice for us. How much do inspections cost? How are travel costs covered? Have you seen better pricing as inspection reports got more detailed? Our fees, again, you can talk to our local reps about the fees. The fees will vary based on the equipment type and based on how much, how many units are actually involved in an assignment. But our fees are very reasonable based on the ultimate product that the customer receives. Hang on. What is the future of the field inspector going forward with Ritchie Brothers? Will they use IronPlanet's network of contract inspectors? Frankly, we can't talk about the Ritchie Brothers deal. That deal is still being, it's under, basically we're working through the DOJ requirements, so we won't address that question at this time. But again, we're an online marketplace, and inspections are a key part of the value proposition, so I'd be surprised if we didn't leverage our inspections as part of that. What does it cost the seller to have the inspector come out to job site? Again, we talked about that earlier. Talk to your local rep about pricing. I think that covers all the current questions. I don't know if our administrative team if you see any other questions that we haven't covered. Otherwise, again, we appreciate your patience. I know it took us a few minutes to kind of get this thing launched. We had a little bit of a technical issue to get this thing started, but we very much appreciate your participation and attendance in this webinar. We'll be announcing very shortly what the next topic is for webinar number 3 in this series. And again, we appreciate your time, and I hope you have a wonderful balance of the day. Thank you.